Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about why would God allow suffering. There is, throughout history, if we look back, there has been tremendous suffering that we human endure, right? We look at the Holocaust, we look at the slavery, people die, infants dying of disease, famine, uh, so on and so forth, right? It's really dark and suffering. There's a lot of suffering, and if God is good, if God cares about us, why would God allow all that evil, darkness, suffering to exist? And that this is a question that has been asked a lot, and the answer has to do with, in order to create this completed world, the world of abundance, we have to go through the build out process. God creates this universe, this reality. This is a real world. It's not a supernatural world, it's a real world that everything takes time to build, everything has to progress from the beginning part. So, for example, God has to create hydrogen, she has to create uh, and then the hydrogen turns into helium and then complexify, and then you have the early stars, and then solar system is created, and then the planet forms, and then a single cell emerges, and then complexify, evolve for billions of years, and then civilizations emerge, uh, and then the kingdom is delivered at the end. That's the whole developmental process. So during that build out process, there is going to be scarcity, there is going to be suffering. Before we develop medicine, technology, and all those sorts of things, we were living in the dark. So the early generation of human, when this process began, they are going to endure suffering. That generation, yes. Um, but ultimately, when we get to the kingdom, when we get to the world of abundance, that's when suffering ends. That's when collective suffering ends. And the question is really all that suffering worth it? I mean, human, we went through thousands and thousands of years of suffering, and the time got really dark. Right, again, like the Holocaust, uh, famine, disease, death. Um, And the question is it really all worth it? And the answer to that is yes, because we're talking about eternal happiness when the kingdom is delivered. So you're dealing with an eternal happiness versus a finite amount of pain and suffering. And God looked at this, and God deemed it to be worthy. And that's why God brought us into existence. And I think we would also, and we would also agree that it is worth it. It is worth it because the end justify everything, because it is eternal happiness, eternal happiness. So any price is worth it. And that's why God brought us into existence and then dragged us through all that growing pain and developmental pain. But ultimately, she guides us through, and then abundance is attained. Eternal happiness is attained for the human collective. For us, the Milky Way galaxy, we exist at the time of this transition. We are not in the heaven yet. Like the heaven hasn't arrived yet. We haven't built the abundant world yet. So we are in this transitional period. So there's still some suffering going on in our world. And if you look at places like the Middle East and third world countries and so on, there's still tremendous suffering in our collective. However, if we look at the, if we look back, there is progress. It's continuously getting better. God's kingdom is arriving. God is continuously making the world better. And if all we have to do is look at our ancestors, the way that they live 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, or even just 100 years ago, 200 years ago, the further you go back, the more misery it was. Um, and and today, yes, there's still misery, there's still some kind of suffering, but overall, for the collective, it has improved significantly. Today, if you are living in New York, Miami, you have nice apartments, flushing toilet, uh, refrigerators, HVAC system. And if you need grocery, just go downstairs and go to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and pick up those groceries. So if we understand the totality of God's plan, then we will understand why things happen the way that they happen. They were all necessary to get us to here. Right? Every event that has ever happened throughout history, no matter how big or small, insignificant, all were necessary to get to this point of our reality. And this is all part of the plan. And every step of the way, every little event, no matter how insignificant they seem, were all necessary to get us here. And and in other words, it's all necessary to get to the kingdom. So all the misfortunes and suffering in the past, they were all necessary to get us here. And there is this tendency that perhaps we don't understand God's plan, and bad things happen personally to us, or our loved ones die for no reason, or like seemingly no reason, right? Why is that little baby swept away by the hurricane or by the flood, or this disaster happened that killed my loved one, this and that, or and and it's it's all everything is connected, right? There's every part of this reality is connected. um, the butterfly effect, even a butterfly that flap its wing across the world can have a reverberating effect in the future. You know, years and years down the road, that butterfly could alter the reality. So every single atom, the placement of atom, or every insignificant event that may look like insignificant events, are all significant. They are all necessary to get to this exact reality that we are living in. And this is the path to get to the kingdom, is exactly what is needed. So everything that has happened in the past were all necessary.